Hello again. Whatever subject I talk about in videos which I make for this channel, at least half a dozen people in the comments will always complain that I refuse to talk about Jews. It is not so much that I refuse to talk about them really, more that there is a limit to how much the average person wants to hear about Jews. And less, of course, they're one of those unfortunate souls who thinks that Jews are taking over the world via some scheme similar to the kind of thing found in the protocols of the Elders of Zion. Otherwise, to most people, Jews are just another ethnic group. I thought, though, that talking a little about the Orthodox types might be interesting because they do feature some undesirable traits which are noted as well in certain immigrant populations. The refusal to speak English, a desire to live in a closed community, and not having dealings with those outside the group, to name but a few. Most of the Orthodox people you see in London and Manchester have been born in this country. They've been here for generations, 100 years, more than 100 years, some of them. But they still behave like recent immigrants. I dare say that viewers would have seen Orthodox Jews from time to time, the Hasidim, who wear clothes which were all the rage in Poland 200 years ago. The men wear nothing but black and have earlocks of the kind supposedly worn by King David. These people speak Yiddish all the time, and even for children, it is their first language. Yiddish is spoken in the home, in the street, in the schools, shops. They really just use Yiddish all the time. Yiddish is basically Middle High German, which is medieval German, and there's quite a few Hebrew words mixed in with it and various other words, but the Hebrew is often pronounced weirdly. For example, the Hebrew for family is mishpacha, but in Yiddish it's mishpoch. So I can pick out some of it, not a great deal. Although it's written in Hebrew script, it is a German rather than Semitic language. This causes problems for integration, of course, because some of them hardly know any English at all, and they can live their lives without speaking English to anybody. This is because they tend to live in particular areas where the shops are run by Yiddish speakers. Their social life can be conducted without speaking English at all. The schools are all Yiddish speaking, as are the shuls, the synagogues. So English is not necessary. Stamford Hill in Hackney is such a place. And oddly enough, so too is Canvey Island these days. A community of Orthodox people has grown in recent years on Canvey Island in Essex. Because they keep themselves to themselves, they will only marry each other, and this means that there's a very small gene pool, which is bad news genetically. Cousin marriages have always been more common among Jews generally than in the ordinary population, for which reason some inherited diseases have become more prevalent among Ashkenazi Jews in this country, not just the Orthodox. The particular genetically inherited form of breast cancer is one of these, Tay-Sachs syndrome as well. With the Orthodox, though, this business about only marrying in a particular group is far more pronounced because often they'll only marry within a small subdivision. So in Stamford Hill, you have the Satmar people, they have their own synagogue, and they will only marry others, all of whom had their origins in a particular few villages in Poland well over a century ago. There are various problems as a result of this closed and inbred lifestyle. Apart from genetic defects, one sees things like extreme short-sightedness, which is more common than in the rest of the population. Stammering is extremely common amongst Orthodox children, as is bedwetting. It's impossible to know the reasons for this because the Orthodox do tend to avoid medical services used by everybody else. Speaking to those outside the community, particularly the English authorities, people like the police or social services, is regarded with absolute horror by Orthodox communities. They call those who do this traitors. It is rumoured that child abuse is rife in some religious schools, but since nobody ever complained, it's hard to say how true this is. I used to live in Stamford Hill, and I'm bound to say that I got on well enough with the Orthodox. I was at one time a special needs officer for the Hackney Toy Libraries Association, and we did some outreach work in the community. There was a horrible amount of anti-black racism, to the extent that when we set up a toy library for them at Stamford Hill Library, we later found out that they were not allowing black mothers' children to use it when we were not around. Nor did they like dealing with black staff, but they put up with me because I know a little Yiddish and I speak Hebrew. Although they regard Hebrew as a sacred language and won't speak it themselves, they all understand it well enough. This meant that I could clear up misunderstandings by uh, explaining problems to them in Hebrew, to which they would reply in Yiddish, and I would then translate it into English for my fellow workers. The fact is that the Orthodox people are as out of touch with mainstream society as much as, say, some of the Bengalis in Whitechapel who don't speak much English. I'm not at all keen on separate communities of this kind, whether they're Jews, Muslims, or anybody else. I hope that having talked about Jews now and devoted a video to them, I shall be able to skip over the subject for a while and that people will no longer be asking me about the Jays or the Jews or any other of those euphemisms which are bandied about on YouTube to evade the algorithms.